Greetings, my name is Majash. I want to talk about what is the Old Testament. In Hebrews 9, just see if I can show that I'm in Hebrews here. Hebrews 9, and reading from verse 17. It says, "For a testament is of force after men are dead, otherwise it is of no strength at all while the testator liveth. Whereupon neither the first testament was dedicated without blood. For when Moses had spoken every precept to all the people according to the law, he took the blood of the calves and of goats with water and scarlet wool and hyssop, and sprinkled both the book and all the people, saying, This is the blood of the testament which God hath enjoined unto you. Moreover, he sprinkled with blood both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry. And almost all things are by the law purged with blood, and without the shedding of blood is no remission." Right? So here the writer of Hebrews is making a point that the first testament was established with blood. However, when we do open the book, the Bible, the scriptures, the past table of contents, and for Genesis, we get this Old Testament. After some reading, we get to beginning of Matthew, right? And we see something else. And pardon me while I take so long to get there. So we see here New Testament. So automatically all the writings from here to here gets grouped as Old Testament. But is that really true? Is that fair? Is that doing justice to the text? If it is that, according to the writer of Hebrews, as we just read, that the first testament was established with blood, just like the New Testament was established with the blood of Christ. So go back to Hebrews, and in verse chapter 9, right, it says, reading from verse 1, "How much more shall the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God, purge our conscience from dead works to serve the living God? And for this cause he is the mediator of the New Testament, that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament, they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. For where a testament is, there must also of necessity be the death of the testator." So with the death of Christ, the New Testament was established. And we see with the blood of bulls and of goats, the first testament was established as well. So in Exodus chapter 25, Exodus 25, and or should it be 24, I believe. So I'm reading from verse 5, right? And it says, "And he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto the Lord. And Moses took half of the blood and put it on the basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people, and they said, All that the Lord hath said we will do, and be obedient. Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, Behold, the blood of the covenant which the Lord hath made with you concerning all these words. So herein was the appointed time, Mount Sinai, when the Old Covenant or Old Testament was established. So why then do we regard all the writings as Old Testament? What do we do with Genesis? Herein is an issue though. Since the Old Testament was established here, New Testament was established with the death of Jesus Christ. We know that happened later on. So if you're reading Matthew, all the way up until Matthew 26, Jesus didn't die as yet. So what do we do with those writings as well? It appears to me that the teachings of the New Testament began with the life of Jesus Christ. So while the testament was not established up until his death, the teachings rather of Jesus Christ ministered through his life and not just the things that he said, for me is the New Testament. And so also when we look at the Old Testament, so to speak, established here at Mount Sinai, however, the revelation of God throughout the writings from Genesis to Malachi for some and some other books for others, the language used to describe the love of God, the patience, the kindness, the mercy, the gentleness of God, long suffering of God, is sometimes colored with very harsh realities. Some of these harsh realities are destroying whole nations, men, women, children, cattle in Israel. Disobedience led to the earth opening and thousands of people dying. Israel warring against Israel, thousands falling, so on and so forth. Lots of death, lots of destruction, and it seems to depict that God is a warrior and he is very harsh, and that even to some New Testament writers that the wrath of God needs to be satisfied. And so we find this theme occurring over and over and over in throughout the writings from Genesis to Malachi. So in my view, that I would say would be the Old Testament view of God and relationship with God and his righteousness and his mercies. Though when we carefully examine and read some of these writings through the prophets and even in the law, we find that God himself declares that he is long-suffering and merciful and kind and gentle and forgiving and all of these things. And when we read the Psalms, we definitely see Psalm is speaking of God's mercy and his long-suffering and his gentleness, and we find God being merciful and forgiving throughout all of these things, but more fully in the life of Jesus Christ as recorded in the Gospels and that of the apostles in their letters to the churches that they wrote the letters to. In a seriousness and how all of this comes together now, in the book of Revelation, we seem to go back again to a recurring theme of harshness, a recurring theme of death, destruction, and loss of patience. God's patience run out, and so the world must be destroyed upon the coming of Jesus Christ. And so we'll hear this thing preached often in the churches, so on and so forth. I don't want to go too deep at this time concerning the coming of Jesus Christ, what it means for those who are not found in him, so on and so forth. A lot of controversy surrounding the second coming of Jesus Christ, and he's not going to be so lamb-like this time. He's going to be a lion and conquering and all of these things. But I just wanted to share my thoughts concerning when the Old Testament was established, what it is, and the thoughts of the prophets, the writers, the psalmists in the Old Testament, their view of God, relationship of God, and how now in the New Testament the glory of God is revealed in the life of Jesus Christ and his love and his mercy, to the point that now we have it that God is love, and the very nature of God is love, as we see in the writings of John. So thank you for your time. Again, my name is Majash, and do enjoy the rest of your day.